Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance Channel's Romance Roundup, the #1 romance book recs talk show. I am Liz Donatello.
And I'm Libby Kay, author of the sweet romance series Buckeye Falls.
Romance Roundup's #1 fan, Emily, suggested that we record an episode discussing romance book covers. So today, Libby and I are chatting about romance book covers, the covers and trends we adore, the trends we're ready to say goodbye to, and we answer hard-hitting questions. Do we truly judge books by their covers? And are book cover designs purposely marketed to deceive readers? Watch Romance Roundup on Reader Seeks Romance channel and subscribe on YouTube. We're only 3 YouTube subscribers away from 3K. Let's make it happen. Please subscribe. Listen to Romance Roundup on Podbean and all podcast apps. Viewers and listeners can email us at readerseeksromance@yahoo.com and follow us on Instagram at Libby Kay Author at Reader Seeks Romance. Hello, Libby.
Hello, Liz. How are you?
First of all, in preparing for this episode, I realized there's so much to cover, though I had to, as I'm sure you did, had to kind of get it down to just, basic things, because otherwise you could really, go down
fall
that
down the rabbit hole. We'd be talking about, it'd be an 8-hour episode.
Yeah, honestly, like this could be a 6-part series. First things first, do you judge a book by its cover?
I would love to say no, but I'm going to say 100% yes. But the flip side of that is also true. I have been recommended books that have, in my opinion, drab covers. And then I'm like, okay, fine. If enough people are like, no, seriously, you have to read this book. I have been pleasantly surprised by books that have either drab covers or covers that don't really look appealing. And then when I find out what the content is, I'll be a little more intrigued. But I am embarrassed to say, if I'm, just scrolling on my phone, going through Goodreads new releases, if the cover doesn't snack me and I haven't heard about anything about it, then there's a good chance I'm not going to add it to my TBR. What about you, Liz?
Right. Typically I go for whatever is aesthetically pleasing to my eye. But I do recognize that good book covers happen to bad books. So yes. I have picked up books and like, oh, that wasn't good. And unfortunately, the reverse is true, is that bad book covers happen to good books. So there's been times where I have read a book maybe because of book club or some other reason. I'm like, I wouldn't normally read this book, but let me do it. And I was like, wow, that book cover did not do the content justice. Mm-hmm. So I do recognize that. I also feel as if good book covers, especially if it's published by an indie publisher or a self-published author, good book covers can really make a difference in me taking a chance on that book or not.
Yes, especially with indie, it shows when they take the time to find a professional cover artist. Yes. And I know they cost money, but frankly, I think there's a reason they cost money. And that's because it comes up with a very visually appealing product.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there have been authors that have crossed my path, either in my inbox or just in the world, and have proposed that I review books that they've written. And unfortunately, at a glance, if the book looks as if the cover took 2 seconds for them to craft on Microsoft Word, you start to think, well, maybe the content is hastily put together and isn't as polished. Yes. So yes, I recognize the importance of it. Do you feel as if book marketers with publishers, like I'm thinking more traditional publishers, because I think I get fooled more by book covers published by traditional publishers, like
yes, the big 100%.
Yeah, and I'm starting to wonder if these big publishers are purposely trying to put lipstick on a pig, so to speak, yes. Where they're like, let's give it a really great book cover because the inside is just okay.
Or it's almost like the book cover is illustrating something that doesn't exactly happen in the book. Like it's maybe they're doing a certain action or the setting is a little different. I've really noticed that where I've read a book and I put it down and I'm adding it to my Goodreads list and I'm like, wait a minute, this cover has them doing this. Or I've even seen it, and not recently, but within the last year, I've even seen it where the descriptions of the people aren't what's on the cover. Like the hero had dark hair on the cover, but lighter hair in the book. and the heroine was described as being curvy and a little bit on the thick side. And the cover, I mean, she's just a stick. So it's, you know, I know that's not the end of the world, but it kind of feels like, well, what are you doing here? It's like they were trying to market to, you know, a certain audience without actually paying attention to what was on the inside.
Yes.
The other thing with covers, and now this is going to go into illustrated covers, which I will talk about in a second.
Yeah.
But I've noticed lately that I will not judge a book's smutty level by the cover if it's illustrated, because, and I don't want to say burned, because you know I read all sides of the romance spectrum, but I have been surprised by a cover that looks kind of cutesy with how the illustrations of the couple are, and then like it gets pretty raunchy, you know. And again, not complaining, but you know, you pick up a book, you're in the mood for something, and then when it starts I mean, you can insert the graphic here, the bounce chicka wow wow, you know, it's a surprise I wasn't expecting, but I go with it.
Right. You see, that type of deception bothers me. But also there's like that pleasant surprise. The first time I was introduced to an illustrated cover that I was drawn to and I read was Fixer Up by Tessa Bailey. And that was the first time I was like, oh, I didn't know this was going to be super, super steamy. And it was a pleasant surprise. But since then, I'm frustrated because like I want to read a particular steam level at particular times.
Yes.
So if I can't trust a book cover to quickly communicate that information to me, then I have to go on to reviews to see what people say. And it just takes a bit more of my time. So it is frustrating that there are times where it's like, I just want to quickly know. And it's like, oh, I can't tell. It's a cutesy cover. It could be anything inside. So that does bother me that there's that, I don't know, cover confusion.
Ooh, I like that, cover confusion.
Let's talk about book covers that we've really loved. Now, I haven't actually read all the books I'm going to talk about loving their book covers.
I haven't either. I've gone by either things I've read or things that I've seen that I'm like, ooh.
Which is interesting because you would think if we love the book cover so much, why didn't we move that up and out to read lists, which could be a whole other episode to discuss the pathos behind that.
We should find some type of like psychologist to come on so we can interview them and be like, why are we like this with our TBR list? Tell us, please.
But it's a really good question because it's almost like, you know, when there's a cake or a gift that's wrapped or a cake that's iced, oh, it's too pretty to eat or it's too pretty to open. So are these books too beautiful for us to read? Like that's...
No, that's true. That's true.
Let's dive in. Libby, let the roundup begin.
Giddy up, Liz, here we go. So the first trend, and I have a feeling this is on your list that I thought we could talk about, is illustrated covers, which I think we just alluded to a little bit. So I am not done with this trend. I'm not, but I am going to say there's a couple things I've noticed shifting with the illustrated cover trend that I'm super excited about, and I wanted to talk about that. I've noticed that instead of it just being the couple and maybe like an item or two to kind of give an idea for the plot point, I'm seeing a lot more lately with like, I'm saying the word landscape, but I don't mean that it's some sweeping landscape, but I mean the background is more detailed and it almost looks like it could be, and again, I'm using the word painting, but I don't mean like in a museum, but it really is setting up a sense of place, a sense of setting, and I'm really enjoying that trend. Two that have caught my eye, one I've already mentioned on the show as a TBR is Libby Gill's Malibu Summer. I love that cover. The people are so small and you get this idea for this mansion in the Hollywood Hills. And I feel like just looking at that is giving me this sense of like, all right, beach read time. The sun is shining on that cover. It's gorgeous. There's gardens, flowers. I just think there is something about that cover that I just feel is twisting that illustrated cover trend in a new way, which again, as a reader, just mindlessly scrolling through Goodreads, I know in this case, this is the reason it made it to my TBR, not just the content or the fact that her name is also Libby.
Yeah, you're right. I have noticed too, there's more atmospheric, where they're trying to draw you in and maybe like the bigger picture and taking the focus away from the people.
Yes.
And that is I'll talk about that. For me too, I'm liking the trend of making it more simplistic, not so much focused on the facial features of people. Another comment I have is that I am noticing more and more pink in the background.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know if it's just a coincidence, but at least the ones I'm commenting on, the ones I'm seeing more have shades of pink. Now I know pink, for my purposes, when I do graphic design, pink usually works the best,
Mhm.
for various reasons. So I don't know if it's just if it's an aesthetic choice or just a technical choice. A graphic design, best practices to have pink. But I noticed pink being more in the in the background.
Well, and it's funny you say that because do you know what another trend I've noticed with illustrated covers is?
What?
I think we're getting more with jewel tones, like those bold reds, purples, blues, and
Yes.
greens. And my favorite example of this is a friend of ours and a friend of the show, Carrie Ray's upcoming Jewel of the Isle. That to me, and again, it also has that element of like the background and the way that the characters are posed. You can tell it's an adventure romance. But I feel like the color palette is a little brighter and just a little different from that pink or pastelly. And again, you know what I mean, pink. Hello, I love pink. But there is something about this new shift of jewel tones coming out that I don't know if it is like subliminal, like these colors are bold, so this story is going to have a little bit more, adventure or excitement beyond the relationship part.
Yeah.
But it definitely, for me, I feel like I've been noticing, and these are with like late summer into fall releases, I've noticed a few more jewel tones.
As far as illustrated covers are concerned, I am personally very much drawn to the pop art, comic art look as opposed to the cartoon art. The pop art depicts the characters in a more realistic way, so I feel a bit more relation connection to that.
Mhm.
Even though there have been some really adorable cartoon art illustrations. But the book covers that I'd like to focus on of the pop art style that I find stunning are Lila Sage's Rebel Blue Ranch series. So that's
Oh,
books 1 and 2 done and dusted and swift and saddled. So it actually has kind of like Pulp Fiction book cover vibes. So there's a bit of a grittiness. It's Western. I don't
Western. Yeah. So, I
there,
mean, but you want it to have that gritty feeling.
and another one that falls under that pop art is The Art of Catching Feelings by Alicia Thompson. I mean, I love comic book style. I
Mhm.
used to read comic books, graphic, novels. So I guess that's just part of what I enjoy. But it does feel real. It also feels like you might be treated to a unique story.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
it's like something special is in here because I've seen a lot of the illustrated cartoon like people, and this seems real. This seems like it might have some surprises.
Hmm.
And I also feel as far as the steam level, okay, this might be pretty steamy. Even though I should know better, right? Because
Yeah.
illustrate,
Because,
but
but I
it's
feel
not
like it
cartoon,
is.
so
It
yeah.
has that, like you said, the grit, but I also feel like to me, because, and again, I picked it up because when I saw that cover, I'm like, this is awesome. This looks cool. I'm kind of in
Yeah.
the mood for a Western, but I was also thinking it looked like they'd be riding more than horses. Yeah, for sure.
Ooh. Overall a sexier vibe than the cartoon illustrations,
Yes.
which I mean, I know that you can't necessarily tell the steam level, but I would say that I'd say 7 out of 10 cartoon illustrated romances are lighter and sweeter. I would say that
Yes.
most of them are not balls to the wall Tessa Bailey. So I guess,
Correct.
even though I do get a little bit of that cover confusion, I think ultimately I would feel like, okay, it's a safe bet, a
Hmm.
safe-ish bet to get a cartoon one if I just want something sweet. But I do feel as if the cartoon illustrations are starting to go away.
I think so. I think I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to be a dramatic like snap of our fingers and they're gone, but
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be this slow thing, and we're going to see maybe the pop art or another trend I'm noticing is no people on the covers at all that are illustrated.
No people on the covers at all. Before I get to that, because I think
Hmm.
we can really dig deep on that one, I would like to mention a book cover with cartoon art without facial features. Now, usually I don't like no discernible facial features
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I have seen some where their people have no faces and they're awkwardly just standing with no context in the background. So basically, it's just them standing, maybe a pet, maybe a prop or a tree or something. But you're like, okay, it's just these awkward, faceless people. Okay.
Yes.
But Libby Kay's Forever to Fall, book 5 in the Buckeye Falls series, which releases August 20th, 2024 by Inkspell Books, is a book cover that I love because
and I didn't even pay you to say that.
you did not pay me to say that yet. So I have to give credit to Libby's cover artist, Emily's World of Design, for this book, Forever to Fall and Faking the Fall, books 4 and 5 in the Buckeye Falls series. Emily nails the seasonal vibes and also depicts the essence of what makes those particular books so special. Forever to Fall's cover, Mallory is depicted with a coquettish side hip pose. And I just happen to be reading the arc, and her swerving, moving hips are very attractive to Beckett, the hero. And Beckett is wearing his signature glasses and he's got his red hair. And the freaking apple barn and apple trees are so awesome. Like, it just wraps you up in the autumn. Listen, if you sniff this book cover, you will smell apples.
Mission accomplished.
And you know what? Scratch and sniff book covers, where are they?
It should be a thing.
They should be a thing. Scratch and sniff. Do you remember the scratch and sniff Snickers?
Oh my gosh, I love those. I love the markers. I love the stickers. I love anything scratch and sniff.
Oh yeah. Like I used to have a sticker book with scratch and sniff stickers. I would just scratch and smell like an addict. Yes, they were awesome. There was the pickle, there was the peanut.
That like chemical strawberry. Oh my God, I can almost taste it. I can smell it right now. It's disgustingly wonderful.
Did you used to get high on your strawberry shortcake dolls?
Yes. I remember that it was a hat or something. And I remember the hat kept falling off and I kept getting so upset because it's like, if the hat was separated from the doll, it was like the smelling potential just evaporated. And it was just like, now this stupid hat doesn't smell anymore.
I mean, that stuff was addictive. There was the little apricot kid. There was Orange Blossom, I think was one of their names.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about her friends.
I had every doll and I gave them away when I was too old and I wish I had kept them.
Oh my gosh, that's me with them and my She-Ra dolls. Oh, I miss my She-Ra dolls.
Let's not even get into She-Ra.
No, it'll make me cry and we'll have to stop recording.
Yeah. So anyway, like I think there should be foodie romances with scratch and sniff. That's something I'd like to see develop.
That would be cool.
You've had faceless cartoon people for the whole series. But Emily just for the last 2 books 4 and 5. Was that a conscious decision to not have discernible facial features? Like, was there a talk about that or?
We did talk a little bit about it. The nice thing with the process with Inkspell is the authors really do get final say on the covers. I know not every publisher works that way. So that has been really nice. Much pride to the chagrin of the cover designers is I love to be like, well, could you do this? Although I will say Forever to Fall was the first one that I literally only had one note on, and it was more apples. I just asked her to add more apple trees in the background. That was literally the only thing, because right out of the chute, I loved how Beckett and Mallory looked. Like I had no notes. That time I actually did gasp when I opened it. I went, oh my God. Like it was exactly.
You feel their chemistry. You feel their chemistry.
Yes.
You know, the body language is great.
Perfect. No, that was the goal. But when we started doing Falling Home, I think frankly, it might've just started because I didn't give specifics on their faces. And the funny thing is, as a reader, I usually don't gravitate towards faceless covers. If you pushed me into a corner and said, oh my gosh, Libby, you have to tell me what these people look like, I couldn't tell you exactly what their faces look like. It's like when I write them, I can see everything, but like, you know, I'm sure, isn't that thing from that Catherine Center book, like the face blindness? Like, it's almost like I have face blindness for my own characters sometimes. And so
wow,
I wanted it to be, not that, oh, they could be whoever you want them to be, but I kind of liked, like you said, that their posture and the background sets the tone. Like you look at Falling Home, it's a Christmas book. You look at Falling for You, there's a huge food truck. So I have a feeling there's going to be something with food. You know, I wanted it to be, and I just forgot Falling Again, that has Town Hall in the background. Like I wanted there to be either a landmark or something happening that gave you the vibe. Like obviously Faking the Fall vibes on that were fabulous and just make me
Right.
smile every time I look at it.
Right.
So yeah, it just happened to be that way when we started working on the first cover. And then when she had gotten the poses in the background right, I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm okay with them not having faces. And I wanted them to look consistent. So then that's why we kept it for the others. But
Okay.
I will
That makes
say
sense.
that's what made it harder with figuring out the hair, because when they don't have a face, the hair has to be right, or it's going to be like, ew, what's wrong with these faceless people with weird hair?
Right. That's true. That's true. Small town romances that don't have any type of background where you kind of get a glimpse of the town, it bothers me because it's
Yeah,
like give the small town the respect it deserves. It is a character in the book. Do not withhold that from us, you know?
exactly. Exactly.
And if a book has a gazebo in the background, whether or not it's small town, I think I might buy it because there's a
Yeah.
gazebo in it.
Everybody loves gazebos. I'm going to remember that for, well, the series is done after 5, but I'll remember that for later.
Yeah, I need a gazebo
I'm gonna,
somewhere in my
note to
romance.
self, write a book with a gazebo.
Gazebo loving. Going gazebo. I don't know. I don't know. It's Monday. And what do we
It
always
is
say when we
Monday.
record on Monday? Why do
Yeah.
we do it on Monday?
I don't know. So I've noticed we're kind of seeing more of and I hate to say real people, but you know what I mean, real people on both contemporary and historical romance covers. And I like that. The thing I really like is when it's a little bit different. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't mind. I still clearly read the headless, shirtless man books, but I feel like sometimes that's selling the book short. And I'm going to go on a rant about an example of why I think that is.
Okay, go for it.
And I think you know where this is going. Heated Rivalry and The Long Game by Rachel Reid are clearly two of my favorite books of the last several years. I freaking love those books and I
Yeah.
will talk about them forever. The thing I love about those books is not just the sexy parts, it's the connection, the romance, the tenderness, these bonds that these two men build together. And I feel like if you look at that cover, you're not going to get that this is going to give you more than just the sex. And
Okay.
maybe it's just because I love those books so much. I just feel like it's just shortchanging that series. In this case, like I wish there was almost, because when we talked to AJ Truman a couple weeks ago, he talked about the different covers and marketing. I almost wish they would come out with different covers for this, because I just feel like, I don't know, Shane and Ilya deserve a better cover. I hate saying that because it is a good book.
How would you change the book cover to suit your reader needs where you feel
I
like it would,
almost
yeah.
feel like it would have to be, and I don't, it doesn't necessarily have to be illustrated, but I almost feel like even if we just saw like the bottom of their faces, like a smirk or a smile or something, because
Okay.
like, I feel like we just need to see like some type of characterization, some type of personality, because just two, and again, not complaining, but two
Yeah.
shirtless guys just standing there, if you took off the title, I wouldn't even know what book it is. So to
Right.
me, I just feel like it, I don't know. And it's going to sound like something from like an 80s sitcom, but almost like kind of like our post for the show, like kind of like
We're back to
back to
back.
back, arms crossed. I don't know, just something
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
obviously the book starts in their rivals, hence the name of the book. But I just
Right.
feel like they should have something that shows, because their personalities are just such a big part of the plot and why.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not the only person who loves this book, and
I
I
love
need
it
to
too.
meet Rachel Reid and just be like, please write more of these books.
Okay.
But yeah, I think for me, there just needs to be that little hint of personality.
Okay.
And to kind of to show the flip side of that, one of her other hockey romances that came out last year, Time to Shine. Now this one's illustrated, but I feel like what they did with this one and how the characters are portrayed, they're not facing the front of the book, but the way they are and how one of them has their arm across the other one's shoulder, that to me sets the tone that we have a rookie and a more seasoned player. They're going to be taking care of each other. They have the Lodge Hotel thing in the background, so you're going to get a vibe for like,
Yeah.
the situation that they're going to be in. And I just feel like that cover does a better service of the connection and the personalities and the romance of it, because there was just well, maybe not just as much, but basically the same amount of sex scenes. But I just felt like that cover, because at first when I picked it up, since it was illustrated, I'm like, ooh, is this not going to be as sexy? And then I'm like, oh no, it is cool. But I just feel like there was the posing of even the illustrated characters just gave that little extra something for me, that I prefer that cover for Time to Shine over the Heated Rivalry and Long Game covers.
Okay. That is incredibly insightful and thoughtful, and I agree. And two things. One, the if you're going to make a character shirtless, I would assume it would probably be a man
Yeah.
on your book cover, then you need to show the face too. If you're going to go cash in on the sexiness and the raw
Mm-hmm.
sexuality, do not give us a headless person.
Although
Um,
maybe there's only one model out there getting all the jobs and
well,
he's going to be
maybe
mad.
that's why. That's a good point. Maybe that could be a real behind the scenes reason, but I feel like don't don't cut it off, because to me it is a little ridiculous after all of these headless people. And it
Yeah.
just makes me think of like the headless horseman running around
Yeah.
with no shirt. I loved Heated Rivalry as well, and I see what you're saying, and I didn't even think of it that way, but you're right. That couple did deserve more. So what I was envisioning is the two of them clothed
Mm-hmm.
on the ice. You see them in the ice rink, dark lighting. The two of them dressed in their opposing uniforms
Yeah.
with their forehead to forehead, and kind
Yes.
of loving away. Each of their hands has a hockey stick, and the sticks are crossed
Oh my gosh.
on the
Liz, are
ice.
you a cover designer? This is brilliant.
Well, I mean, I do a lot of design stuff for my own purposes. I've never designed a book cover, but I really feel like I could. And I would love to do a mock up of what
Yeah.
we would like and see if maybe that could be the alt cover. I don't know.
Oh my God, that'd be like winning the lottery. I'd have so much fun and I wouldn't know what
Yeah.
to do with myself.
I mean, honestly, I would give it to her for free.
There is one historical
Mhm.
that came out, and again, friend of the show. I love Felicia Grossman's cover for Wake Me Most Wickedly, because
Oh.
I feel like that does the scantily clad man and woman in bed very well.
Mhm.
And it has the apple, so it kind of gives a nod to the fairy tale twist with the story.
Yeah.
And again, just the way that the models are looking at each other, there's a little bit more than just the heat between the sheets. Like you can tell that, there's going to be more of a connection. Not that it won't be
Yeah.
steamy in sections, but for me, when I looked at that cover, I mean, I was going to buy it anyway because I love her books, but when I saw that cover, I'm like, I like that
Yeah.
there's just that little shift with the, stereotypical, the man holding the woman as the wind's blowing in her hair and they're on a boat or
Right.
something.
Right.
So yeah, that's one of the historicals lately that I've really liked. Just this slight shift in, the stereotypical shirtless man, woman laying in bed.
There's a book by Serena Bowen. I mean, first of all Serena Bowen's book covers I think are pretty spectacular.
Yes.
She does seem to stick to a lot of male models. Golden Touch is a book that just released by Serena, and it's the whole from head to like waist, and the gentleman who is muscled and tattooed, and I know tattoo has become a cliche now, but man, do I love it. Um,
Yeah.
and but he's just not standing there like man meat, you know. He's posed in a like casually reclining way and looking kind of mischievous, has a little bit of a hair tousle, but
Hold on, I'm looking it up. What was it called? Golden Touch?
golden touch. But it feels like it fits the book description when you read it. Now, according to a blurb,
Oh
okay,
my God, I love this.
yes, I know. According to a blurb, it's a steamy antagonist to lover's story with strong family ties and the perfect dose of romantic suspense. That is a reader's blurb that was used in the promotions for this book. And I feel like, okay, like there's a reason this guy, it's sexy, it's steamy. That's why he's shirtless. He's
Yeah.
got a little bit of this, I've got
Yeah,
a,
he does.
I'm going to show you my secrets and my golden touch. So I feel like it's appropriate and didn't cut off the head.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to give the shirtless body, you got to include the head. Here's my thing. If you're going to go in, go all in.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, and again, one of the best covers with a half-naked man I've ever seen. I mean, good Lord. I don't even care what the plot is.
And the dude looks a little bit older. I don't know.
Yeah,
He's
see,
kind of an older guy,
yeah.
so I dig that. I don't know if that's even accurate to the content of the book, but I dig that.
There's some crow's feet going on there. And
Yes,
again, I'm not,
yes.
as my Nana would say, I'm not kicking him out of bed for eating crackers.
My greatest regret is never having met your Nana.
Oh, Nana.
Because you have a lot of Nana-isms that
Yes.
you tell me in just day-to-day life. And I'm like, this Nana, something else.
Uh,
I wish I could have met your Nana.
oh, Vivian, what a nut.
Vivian, what a sassy name.
Oh, she was a sassy broad.
Was she known as Viv?
I don't think I've ever,
She wasn't known.
no, I'm sure she's been called worse.
Do you prefer or have a preference at all if it's the couple shown or just one of the protagonists? Like, does it matter to you?
To me, not as much. I will say, and I know this sounds really silly, I feel like for me, if I see an illustrated historical romance cover, I am less likely to pick it up than if it had either just the words and, like, a messed up sheet in the background or something, or, a flower, versus the new trend of illustrated covers. I feel like when you get the illustrated covers, and again, this doesn't mean it's not a good story. To me, that means there's going to be some level of whimsy, or maybe something that doesn't, ring 100% like you would think with like the stereotypical Regency romances.
What I'm getting from what you're saying is that historical romance book covers are most effective when they show the romanticism of the era.
Yes,
And
that's exactly what it is.
Okay. Because when you do the cartoon, you're almost reducing it to it's just going to be quirky, fun,
Yes,
shenanigans.
And
So
it's not, I've noticed this since, and again, I love Bridgerton, but I've noticed this since Bridgerton has come out, is that every cover, not every, but I feel like some new releases of Regency era historical romances are coming out with the cutesy covers, even though it might not necessarily fit the whole vibe of the story.
Right, right. And it seems like that publishers of that genre seem to feel pressured by the current trends that are sweeping through contemporary romance, but might not be the right choice for historical, romances.
Yes, maybe not all of them. Some of them for sure, but I
Some of
just
them
feel like it
right.
shouldn't be automatic, like, oh, it's a new historical, give it a cartoon. I feel like it should.
Right. Like Manda Collins, she has romance mystery, historical romance, and they're illustrated, but it fits the vibe because there's mystery, there's a little bit of, do, 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 do,
Yes,
sleuthing,
exactly. Yes, there's just
so
that something that's a little different. Yeah.
right. So like that works really well. What I really have been more drawn to in historical romance, and I've seen this more and more, is what I call the period dress book covers. There are a number of book covers where there'll be the heroine and there's a big focus on the dress.
Yes,
and I really
yes.
love that. I feel like using the dress to communicate the emotions or the vibe of
and the romance, the
so
sweeping
powerful.
gown.
Yes, there's that fairy tale feel to it. So I really enjoy that. Perfect examples. Lindsay Lovis's Never Blow a Kiss.
Yes.
The dress is like this beautiful, and I have it here, beautiful, like yellow and orange. And it's like fiery. So it's like, oh, this is a spicy person. And it's because she is part of this spy ring, this underground governess spy ring, So right there, you're like, oh, this is going to be like a heated story, whether it's just a lot of sexual tension or what have you. I have not yet read it, but it is on my TBR. And any book in Harper St. George's Gilded Age Heiresses series.
Yes.
And book one in her Doves of New York, The Stranger I Wed. Oh my God, just gorgeous dresses. They just really encapsulate the decadence of the world of these characters and of that era. Again, so romantic and
they have those jewel tones. I'm telling you.
That's right. They're the jewel tones. So it all comes back to those jewel tones. They're just so stunning. The dress looks so beautiful. The words have got to also be beautiful.
Exactly.
Let's talk about some of the emerging book cover trends that we're seeing in romance that we're really digging.
So, and I think you and I have discussed this, so I'm pretty sure it's on your list too, Liz. I'm really liking, it's kind of a combination of minimalist and people-less covers. My favorite example that I've seen of this is Sail Away With Me by Heidi McLaughlin and Cassidy May. I haven't read this yet, but the book has kind of like a watercolor vibe, and it just has a sailboat and the ocean, and the color palette is very calming. But the way that the text and the font is just very like, it has like that romantic script. So for me, that is something I've been seeing more and more without the people, but you're getting a sense of place, you're getting the vibe. Another one I've liked that didn't have the illustrations, but's doing it with photography is Jackie Lau's The Reasons to Run. This one
Oh,
has,
yes.
yep, it just has a photograph of a wedding bouquet. So again,
Oh my
it's a wedding related book.
God.
It has those pastel colors that, again, it's not all about the jewel tones. I still like pastels. You get everything you need to
Yep.
know right there. And I think the third example that I'm really liking is the On a Manhunt series by Vanessa Vale. This is very clean in that it is obviously about mountains, because that's what's in the background.
Yes.
And there's a dark pink cover, a purple cover, and a royal blue cover. And it is just very striking. I love the sense that it's just like, all right, this is the series, let's go. There's just, you get the vibe of it's going to, obviously it's called Manhunt, so there's going to be a certain level of suspense and mystery, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But there's just something about those covers. Not a person in sight, nothing overly, but even the way that the font is looks almost sexy. Like I can tell there's something going on there.
Yes.
So,
I'm glad you
yeah.
mentioned font, because typography, book covers, that's one of the emerging trends I'm seeing more of, and I love it. I love fonts and playing with styles. Like, just even when I do graphics for the show or for promotional purposes, I just love it. So I am very drawn to that. And I'm noticing these font covers are evocative of covers from the days of old. And
Yes.
I've got a couple of examples. Krista and Becca Ritchie, Dishonestly Yours, in their Webs We Weave series, which was released this summer. The cover is a dark pink background with a Pepto-Bismol colored strawberry with dripping gold. And to me, it almost harkens back to older Danielle Steele book covers where there's a single object in the center surrounded by large text and gold embellishments. And Emma Barry's Bad Reputation, which releases in fall 2024, it's set in Hollywood with an actor and an on-set intimacy coordinator. We talked to Emma about that in our Zoom call-ins. And Bad Reputation is written in a font and style that, first of all, looks like the Hollywood sign. And the shaded palm trees on the cover of Bad Reputation reminds me of Jackie Collins' romances set in Hollywood. I love that these book covers have an air of mystery. Like, they're not giving it all away.
No, there's something intriguing, and you're just, it's the one with the strawberry and the gold is so like opulent and sexy.
Yes.
Like I can't stand it. It's so good.
Yes. And that one has to do with someone who, a woman who's led a life of crime and is turning a new leaf, but I think is tempted to, again, become a criminal when she meets, I don't know, her brother's friend or something to that effect. Now, what's interesting is these retro vibes. I'm wondering, does that relate to the story in some way, or is it the recycled pop culture phenomenon where old things become new again? Like, I don't know.
And I think it's more, I think it's the latter. I think it's kind of, honestly, it's all about us, Liz. There's a part of me that was like cynically hoping like, oh, maybe they're trying to get like the readers over 35 to have that like, oh, moment, because we're having these like visceral reactions to book covers. This is a case of, I don't even know what the book's about, but I'm going to buy that cover or buy that book because of that cover, because I'm wanting that Jackie Collins-esque experience.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now, also, the book does sound interesting when we spoke to Emma about it. But even if I hadn't, I was like, immediately when I saw Bad Reputation, I said to myself, I have to own this book.
Yes.
So maybe you are right. They want to appeal possibly to the romance readers who have been reading for many, many years. And they're trying to reel us in because you do feel to some degree, I don't know, not ignored, but like irrelevant when you see all these new jazzy book talk type of book covers, and you're like, oh, I kind of wish they would just keep it a little bit more traditional in certain ways or what have
Yep.
you. So yeah, I do think that maybe it is a way to reach the more experienced romance readers. We could put it at that. After discussing off camera briefly, we've decided that we're probably most likely 99% sure going to do a part 2 to this book cover discussion.
We haven't even scratched the surface, and I'm dying to know what people think. Like, I want some feedback here before we continue our tirades to know if people are noticing the same things, or if there's something that's obvious that we've missed. Which
Absolutely.
I can't imagine that would happen, but I guess it could.
It's possible. And that's our roundup. Watch Romance Roundup on Reader Seeks Romance channel and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to Romance Roundup on Podbean and all podcast apps. Thanks for joining us, romance readers.
Happy reading, everyone.